I'm here with Shayda Soleymani. Chef AJ connected us, and she's lost almost 100 pounds, has a great story. And Shayda, first off, thanks for taking the time to chat with me. And maybe we could just start off with a little bit about yourself and where you're from.
Well, my name is Shayda, and I live in Orange County, California. And just a little background, I've always struggled with my weight up and down, and God knows I've tried every diet that there is out there. And until I finally met Chef AJ, the woman who, saved my life, her and John Pierre.
So, what was your expectation of food growing up? I know you said you had always struggled with your weight. Do you remember what your expectation of food was growing up, and maybe how long that really goes back that you struggled with your weight?
It probably started back in my teenage years. Um, You see, the problem with me was I always loved to exercise. Exercise wasn't the problem, and I was on the swim team. I was good. I worked out 2 or 3 hours a day. It was the food, and it was the junk food. It was the chocolates. It was the chips. It was all the, processed foods. That was my demise. And it wasn't that I was overeating on natural whole foods. I was overeating on all the crap that's out there. That was my biggest problem.
Okay, so did you continue with the exercise like as you got older? And I know sometimes you get through high school, you get into college, you get into adult life, and some of those things taper off because of time or whatever. Did the food continue and the exercise go down, or did the exercise stay there and the food just kept growing?
Exactly. See, to this day I still love to work out. That I still love it. I still do it. And through all of that, through even being as heavy as I was still the girl that was out there that I didn't care and I had to do it. At one point in my life, I did stop exercising because my back just couldn't handle it anymore, and I ended up having back surgery. So, and especially with me, kind of an emotional person. So when that whole back situation happened, I went into this really bad kind of like depression type of feeling, and I just sat there and overate. I was the one that ate when I was happy. I ate when I was sad. I ate when I was bored. I ate. It didn't matter. But I still wanted to do that exercise. And when you took that exercise component out of it, oh man, it just all went to hell in a basket.
Okay, and I know you said you tried every diet that's out there. I think in an article I saw, you said that you would lose the weight, but you would always gain it back and some. Looking back, what do you think some of the issues were with maybe the way that you approached weight loss previously?
Because every diet works, and everything's they tell you, okay, eat this amount of food at this amount of time, or they give you prepackaged foods and you would eat those foods. But that's not life. That you can't live like that. You can't. I've tried Lindora, I've tried Atkins, I've tried Nutrisystem, you name it, and I tried. I drank all that goop that they would give us at Lindora. I mean, but you can't live like that. It's not sustainable. I wanted to have the rice and the potatoes and the fruits and all that they told me I could never eat it. No, you can't have bananas. No, you can never have a potato. No, you can't have rice. Well, why not? It just, yeah, no. I would always lose the weight, but slowly it would all creep back in. They never taught me the real way of eating whole natural foods.
And I think you also said in that article that you had a prominent doctor who specialized in internal medicine,
Oh,
weight management,
oh,
metabolism. You know where this is going.
oh yeah, it's
And he
going.
told you it would take herculean efforts for you to lose weight and maintain that weight loss. Any idea why this was his opinion or what he told you?
Because he saw me struggling with my weight, and then he saw my mom that was a little bit overweight, and then so he had me drinking all this like protein shakes that he gave me, or these little meals, and it just wasn't satisfying. And then years later, I saw in a letter that he wrote that. Oh my God, when I saw that letter, when I saw what he wrote, it did a number on me. I mean, mentally. And at that point, I threw my hands up and I'm like, well, if it's going to take Herculean efforts for me to lose weight, I'm never going to lose weight. So I might as well just enjoy myself and start eating as much as I want. You don't do that to somebody. You just don't. You don't knock them down when they're down already. You need to teach them how to eat properly. You need to teach them how to eat whole foods, not just give me, I'd go in once a week, I'd grab all the stuff that he gave me, and then I'd come back, yeah, maybe lost a pound or something. You can't live like that. You just can't.
Yeah, well, I hope.
But he hadn't met AJ yet.
Yeah, Well, I hope that since you sent him a letter or a picture or something to let him know where
I
things are at now.
You don't know how tempted I am to just go by his office and say, well, you know what? Here's your herculean numbers. Yeah, look what it made. But at times I'm just like, you know what? Forget it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then I think you said, in your late 40s, you hit your highest weight, which was 240, and started feeling really bad about yourself. Your cholesterol at its highest was over 400, triglycerides were over 700, you were pre-diabetic, on medication for cholesterol, triglycerides, diabetes, etc. They also said that I had a metabolic disorder, insulin resistance, and syndrome X, to name a few. So, what kind of led to you going from your 20s, you tried every diet out there, and then eventually getting to that place? Was some of that in response to what that doctor had said, or had things just kind of
So
creeped up?
everything creeped up as a response to what that doctor said because you can only get beat up so much and everybody's telling you you'll never lose weight, you're never going to do this, do that, and I took it to heart. And then I just kept with my back that I needed surgery. I'm like, oh God, okay, now you're taking exercise away from me. Sure, it was easy to sit on the couch and eat Cheetos and Doritos and donuts and all sorts of, I wasn't eating whole foods. Yeah, that letter, he did quite a bit of a number on me. Quite a bit of number. I cried my eyes out for nights and days.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate. I know you at 50 you had back surgery. The doctor told you that you needed to get the weight off if you wanted your back to be healthy.
Yeah.
What was your thought at that point, or how did you kind of respond to that?
Well, I kind of looked him in the eye and I said, really, you don't think I've tried? Like, just because I'm fat doesn't mean that I haven't tried everything. But he meant it well. He came from a good place, and I just went back and I said, okay, let's see what else we're gonna do. It's not that I gave up trying, but it was just at the same time I was done with eating the stuff that they wanted to give me. I was done eating all those shakes that tasted like chalk. I just didn't want that anymore. I truly had to find a way because I
And,
was sick and tired.
yeah, and your back surgery, was that linked at all to your weight, or was that just something that happened completely separately?
No, it was completely separately, but it did not help that I had that much weight on me. So he goes, I'm telling you for your own good, you need to get this weight off sooner than later. So yeah, it had nothing to do with it. As
Okay.
much as I'd like to blame it, my thyroid or blame my back, but no, none of that. It didn't have anything to do with it.
Okay. And then did you have a specific point where you decided to make a change, where you did a 180, or was it more gradual? Was there, kind of a time period where you decided, like you said, enough is enough. I'm tired of being sick and tired.
It was probably a few months before I went to that Furman excursion. I literally woke up one morning and I looked at myself in the mirror and I just started sobbing. And I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm truly done. Something needs to change and somebody needs to help me and I gotta find a way. And I just put it out there and I kept praying on it like somebody just help me. And I truly believe that when you're ready for something, it will come to you. Now it's up to you to proceed and do something with it, or you can just, take off like I did. And I truly believe that. I was ready and my teachers came in.
So once you decided you were ready to make that change, what did that look like? Because I wasn't recording when we first started chatting. Maybe you can talk about
Sure.
that experience and what life started looking like after that.
I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. I came home one day to visit my mom, and I had done raw food before. I was a raw foodist for about 2 years, and I really enjoyed eating raw foods and all that. But I missed the cooked food. So one day I came home, and she was watching Dr. Furman on PBS, and I was on my computer, and I'm like, "What are you listening to?" And she's like, I think he's right up your alley. He sounds really interesting. Just listen to him for a minute. Well, one ear's listening to him, I'm Googling him, and I find out that he's got this excursion. But the more I listened to him, the more I liked what he said. And I said, that to me, what he's talking about, eating whole natural foods, nothing processed, the salt, the oil, the sugar, all that actually, for whatever reason, it resonated with me. And I thought, okay, I need to get myself into that 7-day excursion and I need to find out and learn more about this. And I told my mom, I'm like, we're going. She's like, we're not going. I'm not going to be eating wheatgrass and all this. I'm like, Mom, come on, it's going to be good for both of us. So I called, and they had no reservations for us. I put us on a waiting list. 2 days later, they called me back up, and they said, hey, we opened up some more rooms. You guys want to go? And I said, oh, you betcha. And I'm telling you, from that moment, from that week, my life just started changing. Everything. It's like all the stars, everything just lined up for whatever reason.
And so you do that. You come back home. I'm guessing you still have all the same foods in the pantry, and
Yes.
You had a wonderful experience. But all you've known is something else. What did you do to kind of set yourself on the right track in those first couple of days or first couple of weeks moving forward, so that what you took you would have success with?
It was hard because he really didn't teach us like what to do once we got home, and we had enough food that we took from Utah that lasted us a couple of days. So it really wasn't all that like a win-win type of situation. So his book, Eat to Live. I tossed out everything that shouldn't have been, because I was still on that high. You know, when you're on a high for something, you just like go straight forward and you just go do it.
Right.
And so I came home and I started throwing everything away. And my mom's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, this stuff doesn't need to be here. And I just started reading that book. And whatever that book said, like he has that 6-week plan. He's got like a 6-week plan. So I started doing that, and I started following the recipes. But something was missing. And you know what that was? Starch. I wasn't feeling 100% satisfied. But I liked the way how I felt. I liked eating those foods. Those foods to me were really delicious. His recipes were really good, but I knew there was more to come. I just said, you know what, just keep doing this until we get to where we need to go. I was truly motivated. You have no idea. I was on a mission. I was not about to go backwards.
And so what do you think internally had changed for you between then and all those other diets? Was it just the culmination of life experiences and just, preparing yourself, your mind, your emotions, your heart to be ready for that change?
I think so. I think everything's finally started falling into place. But for me personally, it was the food. The food, I actually liked eating what I was eating. I was eating whole foods. That what did it. I wasn't restricted anymore. They told me I could eat what as much as I wanted of the potato, or of the rice, of the fruit. But my mind's changed, because I was just in a different place in mind. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. I don't know. Something just clicked. It was like, you know how you just hit rock bottom? I don't know if you know, but once you hit rock bottom, something just changes inside of you. I was determined this time to do it.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with someone earlier, and talking about motivation and how do you stay on course and everything else. And I think it's almost, at least for me, it sounds like for you, a switch flipped in which it was irreversible. There was no way to go back.
Yeah, it was.
So I know you said that you loved exercise, and I'm guessing that now you've lost the weight. Your back is probably thanking you. So what do you enjoy doing physically now?
Well, I do spin for 6 days a week for 1 hour, which I got to tell you, when I was overweight, I tried spinning, and I lasted 1 minute on that bike, and I got off and I cried my eyes out, and I said I would never get back on that bike again. And well, AJ took my hand and we went back on that bike, and I've never gotten off that bike. So I do spin, I do weights, I do the elliptical, I do their Zumba classes that they have. So whatever exercise at the gym, I do it. And I even do workouts at home.
So it sounds like years later, you're still addicted.
I'm very much addicted, because I have bands that's hooked up inside my bedroom. There's bands that's on the staircase. I do, because every hour I'll get up and I'll do like biceps, I'll do triceps, I'll do squats. I try to sneak in movement as much as I can. I'll be doing push-ups on the counter in the kitchen while I'm cooking. yeah, I'm one of those addicted people to exercise. What can I tell you?
Hey, there are worse things to be addicted to.
I agree. I agree.
So I know you mentioned AJ. I know I had an interview with her, and we chatted about it a little bit before we actually officially started the interview. But maybe you can talk about what role her in that program has kind of played for you in this whole transformation. Maybe starting with the story of just how you guys got connected in the first place.
Sure. We met at Healthy Lifestyle Expo. Well, no, actually, we didn't meet there. A friend of mine wanted to introduce me to her, but the next day at this conference, but she wasn't there because she was doing another conference. And so I emailed her because I had no patience to wait until my phone number was given to her. I emailed her, and her husband both responded, which to my surprise, I didn't think they were going to respond because I just thought they were these busy, high-powered people, and she responded. And it turns out that she was teaching a class in Whole Foods in Orange County. So I signed up for that class, and her energy is just out of this world. She's just got this beautiful soul, this high energy, and it's magnetic. It's like it entraps you in there, you know. And I was tasting her food that she was demoing. I'm like, oh my God, I could eat this and lose weight. This is going to be fantastic. So, so I met her there. And then I asked her, what's another class you're going to have? And she goes, well, I'm having a healthy taste of LA. And I'm like, okay, whatever it is, sign me up. So I signed up for that class. And then from there, she said, well, I have another class. It's in my house, and I'm going to teach you guys how to cook. And I'm like, okay, sign me up. And then she had this challenge. And I'm like, okay, sign me up. And my friends made a bet with me. They're like, okay, you go ahead and do this crazy challenge for 30 days. At the end of it, let's go out and celebrate to any restaurant you want. I said, okay, you're on. So at the end of 30 days, she weighed all of us. Well, I had lost 18 pounds. So my friend said, okay, where are we going? I said, oh, hell no. I'm on to something good here. I'm not moving.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we've never gone out for that celebratory dinner that my friends and I had planned on. Because to me, 18 pounds in 30 days, and I was eating no restrictions on what I was, potatoes, rice, beans, fruits. I'm like, oh, I'm in heaven. I have found something really, really good. So, yeah, she makes the food taste really good, which is important. And she simplifies everything. She simplifies it, so it's not a hard decision of what to eat, what to do, how to prepare it. The food's got to be easy to make, and the food's got to be tasty. Two main components.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think if sometimes people have this misconception that in order to eat healthy, you have to deprive yourself, or you eat. People always will joke with me and say, "Hey, do you need to go in the grass and get a little to eat?" And
Exactly.
and the reality is, I'm probably eating a lot more delicious food than most of the food that I ate before. You tell a story about I think it might have been your personal trainer threw your scale behind your couch and told you that only fish need scales. Was this kind of in response of how you had maybe previously thought about scales or looked at the scale, or maybe share a little bit about that story?
Sure. I truly was addicted to the scale. I would literally, I think, 5 times a day I would weigh myself because, and that would determine my mood, which was the stupidest thing because the scale should not define me. So John Pierre, which we call him JP, him and AJ worked together. So I decided that I was going to utilize both of them. And at the time, I had a torn tendon in my foot, and all the doctors, I went to 5 doctors because one is not enough. They told me that I needed surgery, and we had to do that. So I had said, I'm not going to have surgery. JP said, you're not going to have surgery as long as you stick with me and I teach you how to eat. And he came to my apartment. Well, that weekend, he came on a Monday, but that weekend, all my friends had been over. Well, my friends tend to drink a lot. So they had left all the bottles of wine. I mean, like maybe 8 bottles of wine, beer, all this stuff at my apartment. And I don't drink. And I'm like the only one in the group that doesn't drink. And I'm like, oh God, and he's coming over. He walks through the door. He looks at all that stuff and he goes, Shayda, do we have a problem here? I said, why? He goes, look at all these bottles. Trust me, truly, it's not mine. And he goes, okay. Then he saw the scale in the bathroom. He's like, what are you doing with that scale? And I said, nothing. He goes, yeah, really? Nothing? He goes, honestly, how many times a day do you get on there? I said, 5. Is that too many? He goes, He didn't even talk to me. He just took the scale and he threw it behind my couch, shoved my couch by the wall, and I have a boot on all the way up to my knee. I can't hop back there to go get it. He goes, that's it, we're done. You're not touching that scale for, I don't know, I didn't get on that scale for months until I moved back to Orange County. And the mover's like, why do you have a scale behind your couch? I'm like, oh God, it's a long story. But he would come over like twice a week and we'd work out together. Hardest workout I've ever had, just sitting in a chair. But yeah, he knew how to get like to my head. He got rid of the scale. I no longer own a scale. There's a scale in this house, but it's okay. I don't, He goes, you're not a fish. You don't need it.
That's a great story. And speaking of stories, I think I also saw now you're off all your meds, and I feel like there was a situation where you basically went off your meds before asking permission from your doctor, and also he kind of had a surprise at what you were eating because it sounded like it almost went directly against what he was recommending. Would you mind just kind of sharing all that?
No, not at all. So towards the end, I went to Dr. McDougall has a 10-day program. Like for 1 year, I truly immersed myself. I wasn't working. I got laid off. So for 1 year, I immersed myself in any type of program that was related to plant-based eating, and I did it. I read all the books: China Study, How to Reverse and Prevent Heart Disease, The Starch Solution, The Pleasure Trap from Alan Goldhammer and Doug Lyle. And all of a sudden, I saw that there was a 10-day program with Dr. McDougall. So I thought, okay, you know what? This is the final thing that I need to go to. So I went there, and we sat and we talked, and he took me off my meds. And I said, really? I can get off of these? He goes, absolutely, you can get off all this stuff. And I said, well, what do I tell my doctor? He goes, you don't worry about your doctor. Let me handle him, and I'm going to teach you exactly what to say to your doctor. So on the final day of visiting Dr. McDougall, he had all these brochures for me. And he goes, now, this is what you're going to say to your doctor, and you're going to give him all this. And so he prompted me exactly what to tell him. So 4 months later, Mom and I have the same doctor, so we always go in together. And he walks in, he goes, oh my God, you guys look great. You've lost some weight. I'm so happy for you. And I'm so excited that the higher doses of meds that you're taking, they're really working for you. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I said, well, how are my numbers? He goes, your triglycerides down, your cholesterol down. Oh my God, your sugar is perfect. And I said, really? And how's Mom's? And he goes, Mom's is down too. What are you guys doing? And I said, well, we need to have a little chit chat. And he goes, what's up? And I said, I need you to sit down for this one. He goes, okay. And I said, well, yeah, I never took those meds, and I've been off of all the meds for the last 4 months. I thought his neck was going to snap. Seriously. He was like, what did you just say? I said, yeah, I haven't been taking any of it. And my mom goes, yeah, me neither. I'm like, oh God, he's really going to hit me now. He goes, okay, what have you guys been doing? And I said, let's talk about this a little bit. I said, isn't it true that you can make my cholesterol number and my triglycerides number any number you really want it to be by giving me a higher dose to get it to where it's going? He goes, well, yeah. I said, yeah, it's true, right? And I said, and how much does that medication really affect my true cholesterol, my true triglyceride? He goes, well, a little bit. I said, yeah, a little bit. That's not good enough. I said, that doesn't work anymore. He goes, okay, Shayda, what have you been doing? So I told them about the whole food plant-based diet. And then he goes, what are you guys eating? And my mom goes, potatoes. He looked up, he goes, what do you mean you're eating potatoes? You two cannot be having potatoes. I said, why can't we have sweet potatoes? I said, you tell me why we can't have it. Well, it's, high on the glycemic index, it's the sugar. I said, really? I said, but isn't it true that if I put sour cream, bacon, cheese, all that stuff, that's going to make it bad? But the little tiny potato gets a bad rap. I said, and I can't have just a potato plain? He goes, well, I guess you could have it plain. And I said, well, I guess I'm telling you that's what we've been eating. So I went through with him, and I told him exactly what we're eating. And after, he spent almost an hour with us. Like, they don't stay with you for an hour. They come in and they go. He goes, okay, well, you're doing something. All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you 4 months. I said, that's fine. He goes, but I want to see you guys back in 4 months and see how this is going. Well, 4 months later, I went back. Numbers are still coming down. Weight still coming down. He was starting to believe. Then I took him the China study. I took him Dr. Esselstyn's book. I took him the Starch Solution. I gave him all the books. I said, I want you to read up on this. So I was now teaching him like what, because he's a cardiologist. And he goes, okay. So we set another appointment for 4 months. Went back. He goes, Shayda, I got to tell you, those books are eye-opening. I said, exactly. I said, didn't your own father die of cardiac disease? He goes, yes. And I said, so shouldn't you be saving people instead of putting him on these meds? Shouldn't they be following this kind of thing? He goes, they're not all. I said, I know they're not all going to do it, but your job, in my opinion, is to at least teach them, at least tell them about it, let them make a decision, show them what other people have done. So we're at a point now, almost 4.5 years later, so he's a firm believer. He eats this way himself and his family now. He's starting to tell his patients, and he's on board. Now when I see him once a year, we talk about recipes, about new books, about what new things has come up. So little by little, it's coming along.
Well, you certainly come a long way from sitting in front of a doctor who says it would take herculean efforts for you to ever lose and maintain the weight loss. From that to educating, it sounds like changing a practice. Can you? Yeah, no, that's awesome. So can you, just because I think it's something that some people might be curious about, what medications were you on at the time?
Sure, I was on Protonics because I had severe heartburn, like on 40 milligrams of that. My cholesterol med was, God, it's been so long I forgot the names of those.
No, maybe you can just say what medications you were on for specific either diseases or symptoms.
Reasons? Yeah. Right, so I was on heartburn medication, I was on diabetes medication, I was on cholesterol medication, I was on triglycerides medication, and anything else? Motrin, because with pain and all that. That's a lot. That was too much. My mom was on on all of that plus high blood pressure, which she's off all her meds, including her high blood pressure medication.
Wow, that's amazing. So obviously that's a big thing to change. But are there any things that have changed for you that, looking back, you weren't necessarily expecting? Whether it's physically, socially, emotionally, things that maybe have kind of surprised you along the way?
Well, what surprised me is how easily and how fast the weight came off. It really has, because I honestly, I don't want to make it sound like it's effortless, because you do put work into it, as you know, but when you start eating healthy, this is starting to come off. But for me, my biggest thing was I wanted to get off the medications. The more I read about the medications and what the side effects and all that it can do, I watched my grandmother die of heart failure, and I don't wish that on anybody. She was on 27 different medications. I don't wish that on anyone, and my goal was to get off on all the medications. But I'm happy. I'm back to wearing light and bright colors. I'm back to being myself again. I'm back to exercising even more and trying out different types of exercise. It's just emotionally, mentally, physically, everything's changed, and it's just nice. It's nice to be out of the dumps.
That's awesome. Well, if you could have a conversation, or you could give some advice to somebody who is looking to start this path, start this journey, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they are ready for a change, what advice would you give that person?
What I would say is do it, and do it sooner than later. But my one advice is follow the program exactly, and don't change anything. Like don't make your own interpretation of what the program is. If you follow it exactly and really stay on course, and you've got to have that laser beam focus. You mentally, emotionally, physically, you've got to be in it. You've got to be in that zone to really want it and to do it. You can't have 1 foot on this side of the line and 1 foot on that side of the line. I think abstinence is great, because I don't think any of us, we can do a little bit of this and a little bit of that and still get the results that we want. You're either in or you're out. I don't believe in this, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So stay strong, stay focused, be in it like 200%. I don't even say 100%, 200%. And you will get the results. You will get there. This program works, and it's really not that difficult. It sounds a little scary, but it really, once you're in, you're good to go. Just find some good recipes and keep it super simple. Because if you try to make it bigger than what it is, you're going to get overwhelmed. I eat so simple that it would make your head spin. I don't do anything fancy. The only time that you will see a little bit of fancy food in this house is if there's people coming over. That's it. Otherwise, simple, 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 simple. Just keep it simple and keep focused.
Awesome. And then if you could go back and have a conversation with your younger self before you really kind of had that strong change. Yeah. What advice would you give to that person?
Why didn't you find us sooner? What took you so long to find this way of eating? What's wrong with you? No, I'd say, you know what, everything happens for a reason. I guess there was a reason why I had to go through through what I went through. It made me a better person, a stronger person. And I just would say, hey, don't give up. Don't give up hope. There's a way out there. There's a way to get your freedom back. You will get your freedom back. It's nice to be free. It really is.
That's awesome. And then lastly, where can people connect with you, find out what you're doing, and get in touch?
Well, I'm on Facebook at Shayda Soleymani, and you can always email me if they like at shayda.soleymani@yahoo.com. I'd be happy to talk to anybody. If they like to get on Facebook, and Chef AJ has her Ultimate Weight Loss Program, I'm very active there. If they like to join that and find out more classes that she's teaching and how to do this stuff. I've also started doing consults on the site. So I'm now helping. I want to pay it forward. I am helping people to lose their weight and get off that vicious cycle so that they're free from addiction. They're free from all this bad food and everything. So yeah, email, Facebook, I'm on there.
Awesome. Well, Shayda, thanks again for the time, for the inspiration, for sharing your story.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully I'll look forward to chatting with you soon. Maybe if I get out that direction, we can
that would be great.
catch a meal with you and AJ.
Thank you again.
Well, thanks again. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.